Hey, good morning, Penfield. It's Dr. O'Sullivan and Dr. Carlin here. We do have a couple guests with us today. We have Mrs. Levitan, Mr. Romano, and Mr. Sinkinson. So they're going to be part of our teacher Q&A at the end after Dr. C and I go over a couple of things with you. So we thank them for joining us. We want to go over a few things here, and we'll be ready to go. So, Dr. C, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How about you, Dr. O'Sullivan?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I can't complain. We're all trugging through this, distance learning. I know it's been difficult for a lot of you, and then please trust me when I say this. It's really been tough on our end too. We're all doing the best we can. We're working together throughout all this. So as continuing as we're going through some things, continue to reach out to your teachers, continue to email them, continue to reach out to Dr. Carlin and myself if you have questions. We're here to support you. We are in the first week of May. We still do have about 5 more weeks left of school. So we still need to keep that focus on the learning, on what we're doing. If we haven't set up a schedule yet, please set it up. If you set up a schedule and you're kind of looking at the weather and it's getting nice outside and you may not be as organized as you once were before, please get yourself back to that. The more organized you are, the more focused you are, the more on point you are, the easier this will be as we go through May. I do want to remind everyone that we are going to have our second Spirit Day this Friday, the 10th. It is going to be a wacky hair day and clothes. So if you want to sit there and support in our virtual Spirit Day, set your hair up in a wacky way. I'm sure everyone has quarantine hair, so that'll be a fun way to look at things. Any wacky clothes you want to wear, take a picture of that and post it onto our Twitter page or an Instagram page by doing hashtag Penfield Middle School. Additionally, as we're looking at this week, letter days that we have. Monday the 6th is a C day. Tuesday the 7th is a D day. Wednesday the 8th is an E day. Thursday the 9th is an F day. And Friday the 10th is an A day. So again, it goes C on Monday, D on Tuesday, E on Wednesday, F on Thursday, A on Friday. So maybe jot those down to make sure you're hitting those minor classes on those specific letter days. So now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Carlin. He's got a few announcements for you. And then once we're done with Dr. Carlin, we're going to turn it over to the teachers.
Thanks, Dr. O'Sullivan. So, yeah, I want to piggyback on what Dr. O just said. We miss you so much. We miss you. We miss your families. We miss the contact that we have when we're in the building. Very, very proud of you and all of your efforts. You keep up all of your great work. I know that you are all trying incredibly hard to get through this, and we're thinking of you and we're with you always. All right. Dr. O just real quickly said about specials. I want to reiterate that seventh, eighth, and ninth graders, make sure you're checking in with your specials teachers and just see what's going on in there in those Google classrooms. Make sure that you're touching base with them and seeing if you can do some of those assignments. That's real important. Okay. Big deal, big thing that you've been hearing about is locker retrieval. All right. And so Dr. O'Sullivan and a couple other staff members, we've been trying to figure out a plan for what that would look like. And we think that we have a plan in place. However, we need to make sure that everyone is safe. And so that means the governor on May 8th, we have our extended stay at home orders until May 8th. And we're waiting to see what he has to say about Montgomery County. Okay. If we get the okay and we go into a certain color, then we'll be able to go into school. If not, we're going to have to wait it out a little bit. And as soon as we know, as soon as we have information, we will get it to you. Okay. We want you to be able to retrieve all of your things that were in your lockers or in your sports lockers. And there's been even some requests from things that were left in classrooms. We're going to try our best to get you everything that you need. All right. Just sit tight and we will get that word out to you as soon as possible. All right. Very quickly. These are tough times. And I think that sometimes we need to take a deep breath and sometimes step away from schoolwork and maybe watch a show or even like read a book. So I wanted to recommend something today to you. It's a book that I and my two sons shared when they were little, and we still share it today. And it's a pretty simple book. It's a book of cartoons. It's called Big Nate from the Top. All right, Big Nate, terrific book. It's about a middle schooler who gets into some shenanigans. There are characters in there like principals and teachers and assistant principals and everything in between. And it's a really, really great story, and it's a nice follow along. And every time I read them, I know with my two sons, it makes me feel like a little better, a little bit lighthearted, and gives me energy. So again, if you can, you might be able to even download this. Big Nate from the Top, New York Times bestseller, and the name of the author is Nathan Pierce. So just wanted to share that real quickly with you. And without further ado, back to Dr. O'Sullivan for our interviews.
Thanks, Dr. C, and thank you for that book review. I mean, hopefully every week we can have a different review from you on what you would be your recommended piece of literature that we could be reading during these times. And I just do want to kind of piggyback on Dr. C. He's like, patience is the most important thing. It's like, we will get you guys reunited with your stuff as soon as we can. So just bear with us as we're all going through this. But as Dr. Carlin mentioned, we'll get it to you as quickly as we can. So now, without further ado, we're on to our faculty guests. I have Mrs. Levitan, Mr. Romano, and Mr. Sinkinson. So what we're going to do is like what we've done in the past. I'm going to ask some questions. So we're going to go Mrs. Levitan, Mr. Romano, and then Mr. Sink in that order. We've got 4 questions. We may throw a 5th one in there, as we go along. So the first question I have for you and everyone is, if you were to grow up in any decade, which would you choose? And we'll start with you, Mrs. Levitan.
I think that if I were to grow up in any decade that wasn't one I already grew up in, I think I would choose the Roaring 20s. My students know, very exciting time for women. They got the right to vote. They were able to exhibit freedoms they didn't have before. And I think it would have been an amazing time to be a woman in the 20s.
Nice. Good. Mr. Romano, how about you?
I'd have to pick a decade I did grow up in. I'd go with the 90s. 90s is the era of Beverly Hills 90210 and Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm a big Captain Picard fan. I know Dr. Carlin is not, but he's my man. So I'd go with the 90s.
All right. Okay. Mr. Sinkinson, how about you?
I think I'd probably stick with the one I was born in and stay in the 1970s. If not, I would go like completely off the charts and go back to like the 1770s to be part of the founding of our nation.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm glad you all skipped over the 80s, as that was a decade none of us really grew up. If we grew up in there, we don't want to grow up in there again. Next question I have for you is, do you put cereal in the bowl before milk or milk in before the cereal? Mrs. Levitan.
I don't even understand how somebody could put the milk in first. That makes no sense to me at all. That seems stupid to me. There you go. Clearly cereal first. I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say on this.
Yeah, I'm interested. Mr. Romano.
So I would agree with Ms. Levitan. I just think that the key there is that the second ingredient needs to be added slowly, no matter what it is. Because if you got milk first and then you drop the cereal, you got a problem. And if the cereal's in there and you drop the milk too fast, all your cereal's going to smush out.
I agree. I mean, you can come over and teach my son how to do that. Because he has a problem with that, I'll tell you. Mr. Sink, how about you?
To me, it comes down to ratios, and the much more important ratio is how much milk to cereal. And it's a lot easier to establish that ratio if you have the cereal in first and then can pour an appropriate amount of milk over top of it. I've never heard of any such thing as putting in the milk first. That's just unfathomable to me.
I've never heard it there, but I will say this. I want to thank my son for that question, because he came out one day and said, "Hey, what is this one, Dad?" And he agreed with everything. The cereal has to go in before the milk. And I thought it was a great question to ask everyone. All right. Next, which has been my favorite all along for every time we're doing this, is what song do you know all the lyrics to? So, Mrs. Levitan, what song do you know all the lyrics to? And if you want to sing a rhyme, a verse, please feel free to do so.
I will. But I preface it with, it must be a gene in my family, because none of us before me, including me, can get words right to a song. It's a running joke. But I would have to say I actually know all of the words to The Devil Went Down to Georgia by the Charlie Daniels Band. I saw
Ah,
some guys go like that. Yeah, good story. True story.
the devil went down to Georgia. He was looking
Yeah.
for a
Sold the
sold
seal.
the
He was
seal.
behind, but he was way behind, but he was willing to make a deal. When he came across a young man sawing at a fiddle and playing it hot, so he jumped up on a hickory stump and said, "Boy, let me tell you what. Don't shake your head, Romano. Knock it off. Knock it off." The reason he shook his head is because he wasn't even born yet.
I know. It's like, but if you were born there, it was on the that song was on the radio all the time.
Thank you.
Like the only country song that was ever on the radio.
That's right. That's right.
Probably wouldn't even call that country.
I don't know, but I loved it.
Mr. Romano, what about you?
My answer to that question would be just about every rap song from 1992 until now. I have a weird wake up habit where on the way to work, I'll start a song, try to rap along with it, and if I mess up, I'll restart until I get the whole thing right. And I do that with just about every song. So I have like an encyclopedia of rap lyrics in my head, none of which I will be sharing on Penfield Live.
All right, there we go. I like it. Mr. Sink, how about yourself?
I'm going to go with what may be an obvious one, but I haven't heard anybody answer in any of these yet. And it's kind of in honor of our shirts today. And I'm going to go with the national anthem.
Ah, very nice.
Patriotic.
You're out there,
Yeah.
very patriotic. I do like that. Nice.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that there's a picture behind me and that these branches aren't growing out of my head.
I mean, thank you for that, because I was wondering, is like the way that you are seated, it does look like they are coming out of your head.
Like kind of like I have antennae.
And I guess, like, if you haven't noticed, our three guests are all sporting their Captain America t-shirt, you know, showing their pride for the Marvel Avenger universe. So I love it. I love it. So last question that I have is, if you could have one song play every time you enter a room, what would it be? So kind of like, you know, it's like all of a sudden, it's like your theme entrance music. What would that one song when you enter a room be? This is Levitan.
So it was funny. The first thing I thought of was the theme to Rocky. It was the first thing.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah. I feel like that is a great way to make your entrance.
It really is. I like that. Nice. Like I'm thinking. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun. All right, Mr. Romano. See those wheels turning right now.
Yeah, I
Let's
don't know if
get
I don't know if I can narrow it down to one song, but it would definitely be something by 2 Chainz, and I would hope that Mr. Shoemaker would be in the crowd and would appreciate that my 2 Chainz song is a shout out to him.
All right, nice.
Shoe chains.
Mr. Sink, what would it be for you?
I'm going to go with the first song that came into mind, although I have a lot of other thoughts since then. And I'm going to go with Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine.
That's a good song. It's a good pick.
Oh, nice. Now,
I'm kind of a little disappointed in myself, having attended many, many Eagles games and the whole Rocky psych up at the beginning of the game before they come out, that Miss Levitan stole the Rocky from me.
You can have it too. I'll share
No,
it.
that's all right. I'll stick with mine. I like mine, but I'm just disappointed that I didn't think of that first and I went somewhere else.
That's okay. That's what this is all about. Is like thinking on the fly. What can you come up with? Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am interested in Dr. Carlin. You know, if you know, Dr. Carlin is a big Philly sports fan. Big Philly. So, like, what would your entrance song, theme music be, Dr. Carlin, if you went to the room?
You know what? I don't want to narrow it down geographically. I think it should be the old NFL Monday Night Football theme. You know, like to every room I walk into, whether it's a classroom, you know, cafeteria, we could have that playing every time I do calf duty, you know, or something like that. It's a little old school, but I like the horns and you know, there's a commanding presence to it. So yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah,
Again, Levitan stole Rocky. That's the first thing I thought of, Amy.
You guys can have it too. You can have it too.
We're fly now, right?
I would be honest with you, Mr. Romano and Mr. Singleton. I really thought you guys were going to say something Star Wars. That you're
Well,
saying
that's
Star Wars coming in there. Know that you're big fans. I would have thought that would have been the first thing.
I'm saving that for Gallucci in case you get Dr. Gallucci on the show. We'll leave that one for him.
yeah.
All right. Well, those are all the questions that we have. I do want to thank Mrs. Levitan, Mr. Romano, Mr. Singleton for coming out today and joining us. I do appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules. As always, I thank Dr. Carlin for here. Again, Penfield, stay safe. Stay strong. We are going to get through this together. We are Penfield strong. We do have Penfield pride in here, and we want to go Chargers. So thank you much, everyone. Have a great week.